Good evening and happy Monday to you all. Thank you for joining Reboot Represents, a web series. I'm your host, Harry Turpin. Along with me in the studio tonight, as always, is producer and fellow board member Kevin Tanner. All right, we are excited. We'd like to take this moment to state Black Lives Matter. We'd also like to take this moment to acknowledge that wherever you're joining us from, you are on Indigenous land. Reboot is on the historic and contemporary lands of the Duwamish, Suquamish, and all Coast Salish people. We acknowledge the forced displacement of Native communities from this land while honoring the endurance of the Duwamish people who still live here. To this day, the Duwamish people have yet to receive federal recognition. We encourage you to visit the Duwamish Longhouse and Cultural Center in West Seattle to learn more. And now for our show. We're excited to kick off a really great season of Reboot Represents, and there's no one better to do so than welcoming to the room the people who make Reboot, our wonderful working board. It is now my honor to welcome to the show producing artistic director Jasmine Joshua. Jasmine, pronouns they, them, is fantastic, fierce, and fearless. Please welcome to the show, Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine.
Hello, Harry. Good to see you.
You too. Welcome back. I think this is your 425th time on the show, so we're glad that you're here. I think you get like a tie or something, so that'll be in the mail. But thanks for being here.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited to kick this off and have a conversation with everybody. Jasmine, why don't you introduce our next board member?
Yes, I'm honored to introduce our next board member, who is Angela Snyder. And there are 3 adjectives I would like to use to describe her, which are her pronouns. She, her, which is compassionate, creative, and I lost my list. Compassionate, no, but it's true. Compassionate, creative, and decisive.
Oh, good words. Good words. Hi, Angela. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm so impressed that you made a list, Jasmine.
I did, because as you can see, without it, I am actually just some empty clothes that fall to the floor.
New year, new you. New year, new you, I think is what that is. Well, Angela, thanks for being here. And I think we will have you introduce our next board member.
I would love to. I'm going to introduce our fabulous board member, Scot, pronouns he, him. Scot is just wonderful and kind, and I adore him. There are so many adjectives. He's smart, and he is helpful, and he's brilliant, and look at him, he glows.
Glows. We'll take glows. Hi, Scott. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Angela. I'm happy. I am here. I am glowing.
You are glowing. Oh, look at us. We're wearing some Reboot swag. I love it. That's so awesome. That's great. Scott, who are you going to introduce?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, this guy, he is honest, bold human. He is a Scorpio Sagittarius cusper. He's as talented as he is good looking. Welcome, Kevin Tanner. Pronouns.
Yes.
Hi. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you for those glowing adjectives. I'm embarrassed.
That's so awesome. And just a quick little technical thing. Somebody's got an echo going on. We're getting some feedback there a little bit from a microphone picking up somewhere. So just be aware of that. But Kevin, we're glad you are here. And you have the fortune of introducing our newest board member. So I'll throw it to you.
Yes, Lani, she, her, may be our newest board member, but I've known her the longest of anyone here. Lani is passionate. I had this whole list. Passionate, intelligent, and karaoke master. Those are my adjectives.
Karaoke master. Wow.
I'm blushing.
That's amazing. And unfortunately, Emily Kight, our other board member, was not able to join us this evening, but we're sending our thoughts to Emily, and hopefully Emily will be able to join us later. Awesome. And Lani, do you have an introduction?
I do, just to bring it around full circle. Ladies and gentlemen and gentle thems and ladies, I would present to you the wondrous president of the board of Reboot Theater Company, Harry Turpin, him. That was a bonus because my actual adjectives to describe you are gracious, fun, and wicked talented.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. I took myself out and brought myself in because I wanted to make an entrance too. Everyone wants entrance applause. I think that's the thing. Side note, really quick, before we dive into the show, I remember Raven Symone, when she was like 4 years old, guest starred on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and she had just done like 2 episodes on the Cosby Show or whatever, and she walked into the mansion and she got entrance applause. I'm like, she is 4 years old. That is not right. And then it became a lifelong goal. All right. Before we start, I just wanted to take a moment and check in. How are y'all doing? Last week was last week, whatever week it was last week was a doozy of things. But we wanted to just take a moment and acknowledge what was happening over on the East Coast. And then potentially just to remind everybody to be safe, be vigilant, and to be aware of what is going to be happening in the next couple of days as we move through that. But I am so grateful to be here with all of you tonight to discuss Reboot, something that we all love and hold very near and dear to our hearts. Jasmine, you have a friend, a special guest star sitting there that is very comfortable.
Lumos.
So this is Lumos. He's very needy and sometimes just won't be quiet until he's here. So
He is a spoiled little brat. And I love him.
He's my favorite child. Don't tell.
Too bad this is not being recorded, right?
No one will ever know.
Later time. I'm so grateful that all of us are here, including Lumos. I love the board, and people have often said after they've watched our Reboot Represents, where we've been on, and just the telethons and things like that, that they want to have coffee with us. So we're going to keep that tradition going because, and maybe you have an alcoholic beverage that you would like to partake in. I actually thought about making tonight a drinking game, and Kevin's got one, and I was like, every time we say reboot, we had to take a shot, but I was like that we could be done in like 2 minutes, so like the show would be over in 2 minutes. But we might have to do that for a future Reboot Represents, and we'll just see what happens at that.
Maybe not on Monday night.
What was that?
Maybe not on Monday.
Maybe not on a Monday, right?
Episode.
Exactly. We'll go that
In the spirit of pride.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, maybe the pride. Exactly. We'll just get completely drunk in honor of the LGBTQ community. All right. So we're going to kick things off. We've got a pretty long agenda and it's just some things, but tonight is really a retrospective and talking a little bit about what's moving us forward for Reboot, which is really exciting. All of us have been around for a while. Angela, Jasmine, Scott, you're there, and Lani, you have previous connections. Kevin, you've been around for a little bit, and so we have some thoughts about what has happened, and I'm excited to hear what we think about going forward, and then we'll play a couple of games just because I think that'll be fun, and we'll kind of go from there. How does that sound to everybody? Sound good? Awesome. So we're going to kick things off with Reboot in the Past. We're going to talk about the ghost of Reboot Past, and maybe a brief history for those who don't know about Reboot. Jasmine, can you give us like basically the brief elevator pitch of where, when, how Reboot was founded?
Yeah, so Reboot was founded when I was pregnant with my kids, basically. And at the time, I was not out, and I was still largely cast as a woman, but usually an older woman because I'm a character actor. And as we all know, in musical theater, like when you are loud and funny and brash, like you're a mom. You're the mom, or you're like the friend, or you're like whatever, like comedic side bit, which in general I'm okay with, and I have a lot of fun with those parts. But it's hard those are roles that are usually written for people who are older than someone in their 20s. So, and then once I got pregnant, I was like, man, like I'm not gonna be able to, who knows when I'm going to be able to go back on stage. And like, when you look pregnant, there's prejudice against, like, oh, like they're pregnant, they're going to get, they're going to have kids and then they're going to get out of the game. And so I was kind of worried about like, what was I going to do? Like I wasn't ready to, give up theater despite how many people asked me if I was going to. So basically I had this pipe dream since I was like in the 6th grade, that I really wanted to be in 1776. But I did not want to be Martha. And I could have played Abby, but I really was in love with the character of John Adams. And so I thought, and I, every once in a while, like when you meet, when you have an idea and like you test it on people who you hope you're going to like, to like see like how they react to it. So like basically what I would do is like, I'd be in dressing rooms or whatever. I'd be like, man, An all-female 1776 would be cool. Nope, nothing here. Great, I'll try that again the next show. So like I kept doing that until I started to find the people who were like, yes, I will do it. Where, when, how? And I started collecting these people. Lani was one of these people. And eventually I was like, all right, so let's figure out how the hell to do this. And we did. And after that show, you know, I kind of thought about it just being like a one and done. I mean, I came up with the name Reboot Theater Company almost like, I don't want to say on a whim, but it wasn't something that like I sat and like really thought about. I'm like, we're rebooting it, so it's Reboot Theater, done.
And wasn't it really out of a necessity too, coming up with the name? Like the licensing company needed a name, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes. I forgot about that. Yes, you're totally right. Like basically, like in order, you know, we got kind of umbrellaed under 12th Night Productions, who helped get the rights to it because I didn't have any, like I had nothing. So we had to come up with like a name so that 12th Night wasn't the one producing this show.
Right.
Incidentally, another one of the people who I would like call and be like, I would call Harry and be like, so if I were to produce a show,
Yes.
like wait, and then Harry would like say shit. I'm like, oh yeah, I should have thought about that. Oh yeah, and then there's that thing. Oh shit. So like basically, like I, you know, it kind of was just. I mean, it was truly spaghetti at the wall. And after 1776 closed that weekend because we only could afford three. I think maybe it was 4 shows.
3 shows.
It was 3.
Yeah.
Thursday through Saturday. Yep. So in any case, like once the show closed, I was like, people responded so well to it that I was like, damn, like, well, what else? Like, what else could we pull off? And then I knew that I needed it to be more than me, like spitballing, that I needed to have like other adults who hopefully knew more than I did, which is always the key to an organization, is hire people who are smarter than you.
That's what they say. Yes. Yeah. I mean, whether we succeeded or not, who knows? But we're here. No, but that's which brings me to Lani. You had mentioned Lani was a part of that production, and Lani, you also served as a co-producer, if I'm correct, on the background of that. One of 4. I'd love to hear what it was like for you on stage performing a role that you potentially thought you'd never get a chance to do. How did that feel? Were you nervous? Were you concerned at all with how the world might view you or the show? What was that experience like?
I mean, I was mostly nervous I was going to forget my lines just because we had a fairly short rehearsal process, and I got really, really, really sick in the middle of it. Like I had a fever for 8 days. And so when I left, when I got sick, we had been just starting to do blocking. And when I came back after finally getting better, everybody was off book. And that was like, oh my God, I gotta get caught up. So I like, that was really the thing I was, that and the accent. So for whatever reason, Thomas McKeon is a character that has always been played traditionally with a Scottish accent. And I've done dialect work in the past, but this was not because I was sick and all of these things, and I didn't have a lot of time to really like pull it together. So I was a little nervous about that. But I wasn't really worried about people looking at me and going, oh, that's not a Scotsman, because like, fuck, obviously. Stealing the PG-13 moment.
Welcome to Reboot. It's all fine. This isn't Family Feud.
Like I literally, just by the nature of the musical theater canon, pretty much any role that I play, I will not look like what people expect me to look like because I ain't white. And so that's just a thing that I squared with. I played Fraulein Snyder in high school. I had just played Huddle in Fiddler on the Roof, which was an opportunity I never thought I would have. And that's how I met Sarah Walsh, who played Seidel, and Sarah connected me with Jasmine and Rebecca. And so like that's how that origin started. Because again, like Jasmine was saying, it was one of those, like, we had this conversation and then a year later it was, hey, remember that conversation we had about maybe a all-female 1776? And so, like, I think that by the time we actually got to doing the show, I think we knew we had something really special on our hands, because we had done like a very low-key, like, read through in like the giant living room space of someone's apartment building, and when we did that, we were nervous. We were like, what, this is like a almost 30-person show, like, what if we don't get enough people together? And we had all of the people like that. Like, we sent out an email to friends and it was like instantaneous response. Yeah, I want in. And like, I don't care what role I'm playing, just. And so we knew that like there was an appetite for this kind of production. And so I think that I wasn't so much nervous about like people are going to watch this show. Like, I definitely didn't expect the response to it to be as beloved and positive. Like, to this day, people still talk to me about that show and are like, are you going to do it again? And we're like, oh, we'd love it. I mean, like, I get those constant, like, people have told me repeatedly, that was the best show I've ever seen. Like, you know, and so that was just really encouraging to see, because I remember Jasmine in the beginning talking about, like, you know, well, I've kind of had this idea of maybe forming like a theater company around, like, I don't know, non-traditional kind of casting. Like, if I think I always remember Jasmine describing it to me as, if a Black man wants to play Maria in West Side Story, I want to make that happen. And so, like, I was like, hell yeah, because that's the only way I'm gonna get cast in some of the roles I want to play. So, like, I think there was already just a sense that like what we had was the beginnings, had the potential to really be something special and something that the theater scene in Seattle was really ready for and hungry for even.
Absolutely.
And I think that times just proved that right.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're going to jump down to Angela. Angela, you have been with Reboot since essentially, so the show happens, 1776 happens, the board is formed, and you have been with Reboot since essentially the beginning, along with Jasmine, myself, and then at the time it was Rebecca Lane. And you've served as the vice president of Reboot's board since that time. So when looking back on all the things that you've done with Reboot, what do you think has been the most fun? And conversely, what do you think has been the most challenging?
And Jeanette, I want to give a shout out.
And Jeanette, of course, Jeanette was there too. Yes.
Yeah, it was the five of us, and I think we actually had our first board meeting in our living room, Harry. Well, now it's our living room, but it was your living room at the time.
Yes, that is true.
If I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like somewhere around this time to 2016, January 2016. We all met in Harry's living room, and.
Is that when I pitched Fly By Night?
No, that was when you just kind of pitched Reboot in general. We were all like, all I heard was that Harry knows somebody who wants to start a theater company and we should meet and just see if it's like if we can make it happen. And I was like, okay. I mean, we didn't know each other, right? No. I saw you in Tommy, and I knew who you were, but I didn't know, we had never worked together, and I didn't know who Rebecca was, and I didn't know who Jeanette was. So really, it was just kind of this sort of funny by chance sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And so your question is the best and the worst is what you're asking me for. Oh gosh, there's so many. I mean, I have to say, I don't think any experience with Reboot has been the worst. But I would say that I think I mentioned this last time we did this roundtable type thing. The best and the hardest summer was the summer of fundraising that we had to do.
Oh man.
After Fly By Night, because we all were so gung-ho and we went into this going, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna make this happen, and we ended up producing Fly By Night. And it was such a gorgeous show, but it was our first show that sort of outside of 1776 under the Reboot brand, right? It was our inaugural Reboot show, technically. And nobody in Seattle had ever really heard of Fly By Night. And Jasmine brought it to the board, the board at the time, because they had worked on it. I think you worked on it in like San Fran or something, or you had seen it and you were like, this is a great show.
I worked on the world premiere in Bay Area. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Jasmine sold it to us and was like, it's beautiful. You got to see this. We got to do it. I want to do it. I want this to be Reboot's first show. And we're all like, oh, okay. I mean, and then, you know, and it is a beautiful show and it was a gorgeous production. And I mean, it was a wonderful experience as a first time producer. And then we were so excited to go into our next show and then we didn't have any money. And we basically scraped by for Private Lives, right? Like we were like, okay, it's a straight play, no music, no, you know, musical director, no musicians. We don't have to run scores. Like, so we think we can do this. So we did. And then at the end of that season, essentially, we were like, well, now we're broke. So that was fun. I mean, it was fun. And at the same time, we were like, well, we can continue. We can figure out how to make this work, or we can just call it good and like, okay, we did a thing and that was fun. And so we got together and actually came up with a whole summer of fundraising ideas and opportunities. And we literally from July to December, there was a major fundraiser every single month. And it was probably the hardest I have ever worked for theater in my life. But it was also the most fun because it brought us, first of all, it bonded us. It brought us all together in ways that I don't know that we would have gotten to experience otherwise. I mean, there were so many stories that came out of that summer. Like Jeanette broke her toe during the garage sale. And, you know, like I took her to the ER but Harry carried on and was like, I got this. And Scott came over and helped, I think, or somebody came over and helped.
Kendall. It was Kendall.
It was Kendall. But so I remember Scott coming by just to support us and like bought some things. And that was the first time I actually met Scott. So we got, you know, like, anyway, so we were gone for like an hour and then we got right back in it. And Jeanette was like, I'm fine. I'm going to do this. And it's like totally like helped run the rest of the garage sale with a broken foot. And like, I mean, just one thing after another. And then we did the telethon, which was bizarre.
Oh my God,
weird.
that frigging first telethon. I mean, they're all.
Yeah.
Wild.
But like, we didn't know
we didn't know what
we were doing, but we didn't know we couldn't do it either. We were just like, we have to make money. And this is how boards make money. We fundraise. And we didn't have enough track record to get grants. We didn't have any donors yet. Like we literally had nothing. We just were like, we're going to go out in the community and we're just going to start telling people about Reboot and hope that they buy some shit from our garage. And I went and picked up donations from people.
Oh my God, that's right.
All the way up in like Shoreline, and like we like made the rounds, and we're just picking up crap out of people's garbage.
We rented a U-Haul just to go and pick up stuff.
That's right.
And then on top of that, the garage sale was held at your house, Jasmine, and you were out of town that entire weekend. So, but your husband was not, and nor were your children. And you're like, oh, it's fine. Just come on into my house. And so we're just walking through your house randomly with your husband who has really barely even knows us at all with your two children. And just, you know, and the garage sale started at like 6 a.m. So setup was 4:30. So we're like walking in your house at 4:30 in the morning. It was intense. It was bizarre.
But it was awesome. It was awesome.
It was.
So I would say probably for me the most epic time. It was the best and the worst because like we really wanted to make this happen and it was scary and it was like, gosh, you know, are we going to be able to pull this off? And then, but we also, we pulled it off and we did Little Shop the next spring and it was incredible. So there you go. But that's what we do.
And here we are 5-ish years
and here
later.
we are. Oh my God.
Scott and Kevin, you all joined the board after the initial formation of it. And, well, I'd love to hear from you what your first experience was with Reboot, whether it was a show. And I know that you've talked about this before, but maybe just give us a recap for folks who are watching, what your first experience was with Reboot and how you came to know the company itself. And before you do that, just a note for our friends who are listening. We are with the Reboot board, the working board here, who are our guests tonight. If you have any questions for them, feel free to put it into the comments and I will do my best to put them into the show. So let's throw it over to you. Let's throw it to you, Kevin, first, and then we'll go to you, Scott.
Sure. So my first interaction with Reboot was seeing 1776. I knew Lani was in it. I was pretty new to Seattle, too. It was like one of the first shows that I had seen. And I was just completely blown away. And I was expecting like, oh my gosh, all Seattle theater like must be this cool. Like this is gonna be. I'm so excited to be here.
It's amazing.
So yeah, a lot of the Seattle theater is cool, at least. But and that was my first time at Magnuson. Like I didn't know I hadn't seen a show at SMT, so I was like very confused walking in later, seeing a show at SMT.
Would be the first.
Yeah. Yeah. And then ever since then I think I saw all the musicals. I did not catch Private Lives. I almost auditioned for every single one, but then chickened out because I was like, there's no way I should do this. And I've just followed it and then got to be a part of Sweeney.
That's so awesome. Yeah. What about you, Scott?
Yeah, I came to know Reboot because of our mutual friend, Jeanette Legault. I had just moved back to Seattle and she was involved with this theater company. And she mentioned Harry and I was like, oh, I know Harry. And they were having a garage sale. So that was my first introduction actually to Reboot. Was I went shopping at the garage sale.
I remember that day because you came up and there was this abacus. There was this one abacus with the yellow beads.
Right, yellow
beads.
And
it was something that I had been eyeing. I was like, if it's, we're going to sell it. And if it's still here at the end of the garage sale, I'm going to take that home. I'm going to pay for it.
First thing I picked up, Harry.
I know! It was the abacus. And I was like, no! I've been thwarted. But I was glad to say that when we've met at your house, I saw it on the wall. So I was very happy about that.
It is in my living room up on the wall. Aww. It's a perfect addition to our home. But yeah, I came and just supported Reboot, got to know a little bit more about it. From there, it led me to going and seeing Private Lives, which, I was honestly, I'll say I didn't know what to expect. Having been in New York and going to lots of friends' shows, you're never sure what you're going to get. And I wanted to support them, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I loved the whole idea behind what Reboot was, and then was fortunate enough to go and be a participant in the telethon. And so I would like to say I was instrumental in helping Little Shop come to fruition by participating in 3 fundraising events.
Yes. We couldn't have done it without you. We couldn't have done it without you at all.
Yeah. So that was my introduction. And then I joined the board.
And we're glad you're here. We're glad you're all here.
I'm happy I'm here too.
We have a couple little surprises throughout the show. So just a couple of friends from our Reboot family who are going to say hello. And so, awesome. Kevin, if you want to go ahead and roll that first clip, that would be great.
Sure thing.
Hi, my name is Garrett Dill, and I was in Reboot's production of Fly By Night as Harold. I got to play the guitar, and it really opened me up as a performer and an artist. And the creative team was so supportive and absolutely wonderful to work with. The cast, absolutely amazing, so unique, so honest and open, and Reboot Theater really encouraged that in me and us to create a wonderful performance and production that I'll never forget. Some of my favorite moments were mostly rehearsal processes. It's surprising that Jasmine and Harry both think that they can stop an overflowing bottle of soda with just their mouths and without closing the lid back up. Anyway, ask them sometime and they'll tell you a good story. And Reboot has changed my life. I really hope to be a part of a production with them someday, but I really hope that they keep on doing forward-thinking, community-based, human productions. Thank you, Reboot.
Aw, Garrett.
Wait, can we talk about that anecdote there in more detail? I want to know more about that.
More about the soda. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think yours was first, Terry.
I think so. Mine was during rehearsal. Yeah. So we're in rehearsal. We're at TPS, and I should not have had a soda, but we were in the Black Box Theater, and we're rehearsing, and I'm sitting up in the things, and I got down to do a piece of direction or move some choreography or whatever it was. And I came back up and I bumped the soda thing and it fell over, and I picked it up and I was like, oh no, but the lid was on. So I picked it up and I opened it and it immediately started like going, and I'm in the seats. And my only thought was, I can't get soda all over the seats here in this theater, right? I don't have any paper towels. So I took the soda and I went like which now is a meme, I'm sure. But I went down on the soda bottle apparently, and
I've done that, but it was a beer bottle in a bar.
And it literally it was just exploding up into my nose, and like I couldn't stop it because it was burning, and then it just fell all over the ground. And like everybody in rehearsal, these people were like, "What is happening?" It was very funny, but yeah, it hurt. It hurt.
So a few months later, I was in Title of Show at Bainbridge with Garrett, and to get to Bainbridge, you have to get on the 5:30 ferry, and if you don't get on the 5:30 ferry, then I think the next one isn't until 7, which would make you like 2 hours late for rehearsal or some shit. And so I had babies, and Mike worked downtown, and I live in North Seattle. So in order for this to work, one of two things had to happen. Either Mike had to leave early because I had to be on the ferry at 5:30. So I think we figured it out where like I would put the girls in the car, drive downtown at 5 p.m., which is hell, pick up Mike. But I had to time it because the only way to pick them up was in a bus lane. And we all know how the bus drivers love that. So I couldn't hang out and wait. I had to keep circling, with these like infants in the car. And then Mike would leap into the car. We would fight our way down to the ferry dock. And then I would jump out of the car, sometimes while still moving. Mike would take the wheel and I would run to get onto the ferry, and Mike would drive home. Okay. So that's what I had to do in order to do free theater at Bainbridge. Anyway, point being, they did pay for the ferry ticket. So it was one of those days where like I practically had to leap onto the ferry as it was like about to go away from the dock, and I sit down and I'm like, and I took out of my bag a big bottle of like fizzy water, and I thought, whatever, I'll have a nice drink. And I opened it, and it's the rush hour ferry from downtown to Bainbridge, and it immediately is like and obviously Harry and I have the same instinct, because instead of just like closing it, no. I just went and so I'm like I like a fucking Violet from Willy Wonka, like it was really, and I'm sitting across from Garrett, who is like, what is wrong with you and Harry? Just close the bottle. I've watched the both of you do this. So that was obviously, I don't know.
Oh man.
But like, I'm like, we're fucking, like chin to toe with like 400 people. Remember when you could like touch strangers? Like there were so many people packed on this ferry, and it was in February, so everyone had like their wet coats and their boots and their umbrellas, and I'm just like covered in like lemon lime seltzer. It was dumb.
Oh.
I love you, Garrett.
We love you, Garrett. Thank you for sending that in. So Garrett was part of our production of Fly By Night, and I would love to. Oh, I've got an echo from somebody back there. But Garrett was a part of our production of Fly By Night, and it was essentially the first show, kind of, that under the Reboot banner. 1776 was sort of, which is why we are in our 5th-ish anniversary season. But incorporated as a board, 1770. Fly By Night was under that after we incorporated as a board. and all the hard work and everything like that came to it. All of us have seen Fly By Night. So what I would love to do before we go to you, Jasmine, for some deeper thoughts, is I would love to just kind of get a one word or maybe just a quick little sentence from each of you what it was like seeing Reboot Theater Company's first production of Fly By Night as that popped up for you. We'll start with you, Scott. Scott, you did not get to see Fly By Night because you weren't here. But Lani, we'll go with you.
Correct.
See it either because I was in my first quarter of grad
All right.
school.
Well, then this was a great
I auditioned
question.
for it though. I will say this. So I did audition for the show, and the night after callbacks, or that night, my grandfather passed away, and the only thing that would so I stayed until they came to collect the body at like 3 a.m, and driving home, the only thing that kept me sane was listening to I Trust Stars on repeat.
Oh my God.
And so that show, even though I didn't get to see the show, it still has such an emotional connection for me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that story. What about you, Kevin?
I thought it was so honest. And I think part of what really worked well for me was the staging at the Slate. It's definitely a quieter show. It's a smaller show. It's more intimate. And I think that Harry, you did a great job directing that show, and the cast was like incredible. And I had just before the auditions like went up for it, just started getting like obsessed with the show on Spotify. And I just think it's such a great show. Yeah.
Angela, what about you?
Oh gosh. I remember watching the
Designer run.
Yeah, I remember seeing the designer run, and it was the very first time I'd seen the show in its entirety. And the set, no costume, no lights. It was just the cast and a pianist, and it was so honest and just so human. The story is just so human. And it was a very weird experience and surreal because there are actually a lot of parallels to my life that sort of made its way into that story that nobody would ever know. Like it wasn't something that it was just like personal anecdotes within the story that really hit home for me in weird ways. So it was a gorgeous show, and I was so thankful. Even though I kind of fought Jasmine a little bit on wanting to produce it, I remember, because I hadn't heard of it. I was so thankful that we did the show.
Yeah, having the honor of being able to direct the show, it was a great experience, and I just think something that we needed at that particular time as we were going through the election and going through that craziness. And Jasmine, you can talk a little bit more about that, but what was it like for you as the artistic director, having, you'd produced 1776, but here was all the hard work, all the payoff and everything happened, and we got to the point of producing the show and it's up and running. What was that like on that opening night, seeing it come to fruition?
Honestly, Fly By Night, it is a magical show, and it made me feel magical as a company. Because it was, so aptly named considering we were a new company, and, that doesn't usually last very long. I feel like a lot of new companies, I was told that 1776 was essentially like, it was a passion project, or it was a personal, like, oh, it's because you want to star in it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm also really good. So does that, you know what I mean? Like, also, I know how to make a good product. Like, it's not just me being like, I could have just done a cabaret if I wanted it to just be about me. You know what I mean? And so Fly By Night was kind of proof to everyone. It's like, no, like, I know how to fill my life with great people. And the show itself, like the whimsy of it, and even the low techness of it, of like, we can make New York City at the Slate Theater just as easily as we can make a field with a swing, just as easily as we can make, a sandwich shop and, an opera house and anything else. And we know how to do that. And so it was I don't know. It was one of those being able to produce Fly By Night with like the new team assembled to me was honestly, it was the sign from the stars or whatever that basically was like, you know what you're doing and this is the right thing to do. And honestly, like had it not been for the fact that Trump was elected the Tuesday after we opened, like I guarantee we would have sold out every night, because Fly By Night is another one of those shows like 1776 where people still come up to me and say, I had never seen it before, and it is now one of my favorite shows of all time. It changed my life.
Yeah, same.
It's just a stunningly beautiful piece, and we did a really good job. So
yeah, we did. Pat ourselves on the backs for that. We did that. We have actually a little message from somebody who got to work with us on Fly By Night. Kevin, if you want to roll that clip.
Hey, it's me, John Winans. Just sending a big old message of congratulations on the Reboot Theater Company's 5-ish anniversary. I had the great good fortune of being part of their, I think it was second or third production that they ever did, a fantastic musical called Fly By Night. I was brought in very last minute, and what I witnessed was a bunch of fantastic theater artists just coming together with the sole purpose of putting on a really good show. In my mind, they were incredibly successful, and I will look back on my time there with that show with nothing but fond memories. Reboot Theater Company, great people, great art. I only wish I could be around for more. Anyways, congratulations. Love you.
Oh, John.
John needed it.
Oh my
So
God.
sweet. So for those of you who don't know, we're just kind of spilling a little bit of the tea, but we had a stage manager who had signed on to the show and got into a car accident, unfortunately. And he's okay. He was fine, but he was in a car accident and decided that, probably the right decision that he had to withdraw from the show. This was, I think, a week before we went into tech.
Correct.
So the show had already been blocked. It had already been staged. He knew all of the ins and outs of everything. And we all of a sudden lost him and we're like, oh man, what are we going to do? And I put a call out to John, who I had worked with on Company, and John immediately said yes and came in and literally saved our bacon. He was there and he came in and teched the show and stage managed it from that point on through the rest of the run. And we are so incredibly forever grateful for John being a part of the show and being a part of our Reboot family.
Literally just hearing his voice, I just felt like every hackle just go, oh yes, just the voice of a stage manager. I'm just like, oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God. Oh dear God. I mean, John was with us during that friggin' tech week too.
Oh, that tech week. Angela, you probably could share that story at some point if you want to, but about Sweeney later on, just as a FYI, since we're bringing up the tech week. You and I had a little brief convo earlier. We can talk about that later. But that tech week at the Slate was for Fly By Night was crazy.
Wasn't that where we lost all the light cues?
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, Alex Wren, our lighting designer, and musicals have a lot of light cues anyway, and he had spent all this time, and the lighting properties at the Slate are limited. It's an older board.
But also, Fly By Night is literally about a blackout.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Like it is all about the lights. Like that's where you put your.
So we had 432, I want to say 435 cues that were built in the show, and we had spent some time and we teched and we moved some lights and we did all the thing to make sure that the limited instruments that we had, and remember, we're on a shoestring budget. There was no lighting budget. There was
no.
I think Alex got paid $7 or something, right? 4 days to tech the entire show.
Including load in and build.
Load in and build, exactly. And so we get into the show and we spent the night or we do the thing, and Alex is there late and we do all the cues. We're there all night until like
Harry
midnight.
And I reenacted
we're reenacting the show so that way people are in positions where they need to be so he can light it. And we all go home going, yay, we've done it. And we come in the next day and this is our photo shoot. We have the photographer who's going to be there, and we come in the next day and the proprietor of the Slate Theater
Wednesday.
Proprietor is like, oh, by the way, I repatched some things and helped you out. And we lost every cue, every single cue in the show. And it was like, and the photographer's like, hi, I'm here to take pictures. That's not a great impression of the photographer, but it's like, hi, I'm here to take pictures. And we're like, we have a flashlight because that's all we have. And like, it was insane. And Alex was furious, and rightly so. And then we were there, I think, again until 4 a.m, reteching and relighting. We sent the actors home finally at midnight, and Jasmine and I think Kendall was there, somebody else, but
I was there for a little bit.
Angela was there too, and we were all positioning and putting people on stage where they needed to be to make that work. It was crazy.
I think I had gotten word that the Seattle Times was coming to review it on Friday.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure that was building that week.
That was a bummer.
But John Winans kept us sane strangely through all of that. So thank you, John. Angela, you were also involved working on the production team for the show, and you were compiling props. What was the hardest prop to come by for the show? Do you remember?
Oh, I totally do. There were two that were actually tricky. And the reason was because the show takes place in the 60s, and so it's period. And while you can get away with some things, there were a few pieces. One was the La Traviata record. There's a whole scene with this record cover. I mean, it's the sole focus of the song, essentially. And so I needed to find a copy of a vinyl copy of La Traviata from a production that was basically that somebody in the 60s would have had, right? So it can't be like, 1990 Placido Domingo or whatever. Like, it had to be period. And taking into account that this person who's singing about this is an older gentleman, it probably would have really been from the 30s. So that was tricky. I found one that actually ended up working, I think, on eBay, honestly. And I bought it on eBay. And I had it in the trunk of my car after that show for about 3 years.
That's right.
By the way. And then, because I didn't know what to do with it, but I didn't want to throw it away because I'm like, this took me a long time to find. But the one thing that I was telling so the lighter, the Zippo lighter, I don't know if you remember, there was a lighter, and it was a key part of the story. And Mandy had to have a lighter because the blackout happens, and Mandy, as the narrator, needs to shine the light, essentially, because that's where the light comes from for that scene. And so it's the 60s, so we can't just have a plastic Bic, right? It has to be something period.
Ganja goddess lighter.
I scoured the entire city of Seattle. I went on eBay. I was on Amazon. Like, I went to every single vendor I could think of online, and just even in my neighborhood and in the city, and I couldn't find like an old fashioned like Zippo, like flip top Zippo. You know what I mean? I finally found something that I thought would work. I think it was at a tiny little out of the way smoke shop. I want to say it was probably in the U District. And I bought it with my own money because it was like $50 and my budget was $25. So
we really set you up for success. I know that we set.
Well, but it was probably more like $100, but I couldn't spend half my budget on this.
No, it probably was 25.
But it was so pretty. It was so pretty, and it was perfect. And it had the flip top, and it was like that old metal clanky sound. And it had the old fashioned lighter that you flip. I mean, it was just awesome. I was like, I gotta have this. So I buy it and I take it to rehearsal, and I'm so excited. And I'm like, Mandy, I got your lighter. And poor Mandy had never, I don't think, actually used a lighter like that in their entire life. And so it was hard, right? Like, it's hard. It wasn't broken in, so it wouldn't light readily. We also had just issues with like the flint catch, and like it wasn't lighting on cue. Anyway, I think we got to either after the first night or the second night that the show opened, and Mandy came to me and was like, I felt so bad because they were like almost in tears, like just because this lighter wasn't working, and it was a sincere part of the show, and it really needed to be a work on cue, and they were having so much problems. I was like, okay, you know what? I was like, screw it. I went into my purse and I found this like 50-cent crappy green Bic lighter that was like, I had been in my purse for probably 2 years. I was like, try this one, use this for tonight, and let me know how it goes. And you can hide it with your palm. So so that they can't see. The audience will just see the flame. They won't see the crappy, green transparent lighter. And so Mandy ended up using it, and it worked great. And so they just used that for the rest of the run.
With the exception of one night, because someone with an oxygen tank came and sat in the front row. And I remember John running back, and like the show had started and was like, we have to figure, or I forget, I had to get to John. We had to somehow tell Mandy, don't light things because it could explode.
That's great.
Wow.
So
they were sitting, that person was sitting right down, like down left, right where Mandy had to stand.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so, I remember that night.
Oh my gosh, that was nuts.
So,
I don't remember if the show had an intermission or not. Did it have an intermission? I don't think it did. Did it?
I thought it did.
Oh, it did. Yeah, it totally had an intermission.
I think it did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It was 100 years ago.
But it was, so anyway, so it was like I spent $50.50 on this stupid lighter. And I ended up, and the funny part was I was like, oh, it's so nice. I'll just buy it, use it for the show, and then I'll keep it for myself. And then I ended up throwing it away because it was crap. I was so mad. So mad.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We are going to move on to another friend who is watching us here, or who has submitted a video. Let's go ahead and roll that clip, Kevin.
Hi, my name is Kiki Werner, and I played Audrey 2, or the plant, in Reboot's production of Little Shop of Horrors. A lot of theater companies say that representation matters, but Reboot Theater Company was founded on that statement. And their goal is to give people the opportunity to play roles that they wouldn't normally get to play. Case in point, the plant is almost always a male voice off stage. And I got this opportunity to explore this sultry, nasty diva character when up until that point I had always cast as the funny sidekick. And so it changed me as an actor. The support that I got when I wasn't sure if I could even do it was incredible. And Reboot Theater has changed the face of theater in this city. And I hope that more theaters take note. Thank you, Reboot.
Thank you, Kiki.
Wow. Kiki.
Oh, so sweet.
Yay.
Thank you.
Kiki just got kittens, and they're so cute.
They are so cute. Speaking of kittens, earlier in the show, Jasmine had mentioned that Loomis was their favorite child, and you may have seen Jasmine's children pop down during when Angela was speaking about 2 segments ago. And Jasmine, why did they come down? Would you tell everybody?
Well, they were getting ready to go to bed, and they came down and said, "Mommy, is Lumos really your favorite child?" So that was awkward for everyone.
Amazing.
I love those bugs.
Oh.
Amazing. Scott, we're going to talk to you a little bit about Little Shop. You,
okay.
with the wonderful and always Miss Jeanette Legault, helped to build and create our lobby takeover of the show production, which was amazing.
Yeah.
You also built our little Tui, who shows up in various disguises at our events to help take donations. Some of you may have seen Tui out there. What can you say about Little Shop? This is your first really big experience as to producing the show with Reboot and things like that, and coming in and diving right in. What did you love about it? What did you hate about it? What were some of the challenges? What can you say about it?
I could say lots of things. That I loved it. I had just joined the board, right? I think auditions had already happened by the time I came on. And so I was that new board member who wasn't really sure of what his roles were yet as a board member. So I was like, great, what do I do? And I think it just kind of became, I'll help out, do with whatever I can do. One of the things, I remember going to a couple of rehearsals, which was really awesome to do. And it really showed to me what Reboot was about, as far as the direction that you, Harry, were taking the show, how it was going to transform the theater for the audience, and just the casting. I mean, Kiki just saying that, being able to play the plant live on stage was amazing. I was so impressed with the casting and the talent, and was like, I like Reboot. I'm glad I'm a part of this. This is exciting to, because you kind of go, what's going to happen? But it was just, it was great. Just that little bit. And then you mentioned Jeanette. So one of the things that I really liked was not only how were we going to change the stage and how you were directing it, but we wanted to take that immersive experience out into the lobby so that as soon as audience members arrived, that they were transported to Skid Row right away. And so, yeah, I got to help Jeanette out, and we turned that lobby into the back alleys and decorated it with garbage, basically. I mean, let's be honest, we were like, same thing, you just go around, find things, this will work. And it was just trying to add to that immersive experience, to give everyone an opportunity to be a part of the Reboot community, to come and experience something different. And I built that little TUI, which it is for donations. Unfortunately, TUI's in the dry storage right now. Yeah, quarantine, locked up. But a little, just something to add to the experience. And that's something that, I mean, that's ultimately what I loved about it, is that it transported us to another place. To say something else about Little Shop, if I may, and what I loved about it, most of us already kind of know the story of Little Shop and the campiness and the fun and exciting. But one of the biggest things I think that really came through with Reboots was the amount of heart about these people and their journey. That this was something that was, we didn't make fun of it. It really was something to be a part and to observe. And I don't know, but kind of rambling now, but
no,
yeah.
I appreciate that. Angela, we're going to come to you real quick, as you were part of the cast. Do you have any fun mishaps that might have happened during that show? Or was everything perfect?
It was perfect whenever I saw it.
I mean, no, like, you know, there's always things. There were a couple of moments I remember, you know, I do remember that Audrey, played by Tipsy Rosalie, Tipsy's earring kept falling off during the smash scene. And so, like, I mean, every night. And it was always a game to figure out where the earring landed. And, like, sometimes it would land in somebody's lap in the audience, and sometimes it would go under a chair. And sometimes we weren't able to find it till after the show. A couple of times we had an audience member return it to us, you know, after the show. I mean, so that was always funny. Just, you know, it's just one of those weird flavor things. Yeah. I do remember, I mean, you know, the urchins, we were pretty tight. It was me and Danielle and Jake Atwood, and we we're in our own little world kind of backstage and in the dressing room, because we did our own thing, right? We were sort of the muses. We kind of come in and out. We sort of weave through the story. And there was one night I remember, I don't remember, something happened. Somebody got injured a little bit. It wasn't a huge big deal, but I think it was Jake. And so we were backstage and we were, trying to make sure he was okay to go out. And, you know, we weren't really paying attention to what was happening. And also we were just being silly. And all of a sudden we hear Kiki start singing I think it's the, you know, come on. And it's that part, the urchins are supposed, and we were like, we heard the piano going and we're like, oh, like we totally missed our entrance. Like totally missed it. I mean, like we weren't even backstage. Like we were in the green room. And so I'm like, it'll be fine. Just sneak out and we'll just start as we walk in. It'll be like it's on purpose, right? So we like sneak on stage and we're like, we made it for the end of the song. So it was fine. It was all good. But I do remember, like Harry was there that day. I don't think he either was in the lobby during that part or like in the restroom or something. But I remember saying something after the show. I was like, oh yeah, did you like how we missed our entrance? And Harry, like, what? Like, he was sad. He was so sad. I was like, oh, I mean,
no, it was perfect. It was perfect. Everything was perfect.
We made it on stage. It was fine. Don't worry about it. No, it's fine.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of mishaps, I would love to specifically talk with Jasmine a little bit about one of the moments where we where we saw Reboot, basically the Reboot glitterati move into into action. So this is the infamous incident about, and we will protect the innocent as much as possible here, giving vague highlights of what has happened. But this is the call about that happened and how we moved forward through that particular thing. So I'm being as vague as possible, Jasmine. Yeah, I'm being super vague here. But essentially what was going to happen here is I'm sitting at work and I'm working away and I'm typing.
Oh my God. I was like,
and we will protect the innocent as much as we possibly can. But I'm sitting there working away and I get a phone call and I answer it, and all of a sudden, I'm going to skip all of the major drama, but long story short, our music director was no longer available. And we all of a sudden had to go into action. This is like the third week of rehearsal that we're in. So the cast had already been rehearsing. They rehearsed 1 week without me. I was back the second week, and then we go into a... So we go in, I get this phone call, and I all of a sudden am like, oh, crap, what are we going to do? We've lost our music director. I call Jasmine. And Jasmine, I don't know if you want to take it away a little bit and just talk a little bit what happened after that point, but you and I had a conversation. I'm like, hey, so music director is no longer available, and here's why. Long, drawn-out explanation that we do not have time nor the legal authority to go into at this particular moment. And then we go into action and we start scheming a lot. Do you remember that? Do you remember that day?
I don't know if it's possible to not remember that day. I was building lawn furniture. I was outside because it was starting to get nice, and I had gotten a really good deal on some lawn furniture. Mm-hmm. And I was building it outside, and my phone was near me, and I got a text that just says, call me 911 from Harry. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I will. Yeah. And I got the call that, our music director at the time was going to be unavailable possibly for
the very long
for
future.
20 to 30.
For 20 to 30. Yep.
And, Jesus.
So we swing into action. At this particular point, we start brainstorming, we talk about it. And this is really what I love about Reboot and just sort of the overall general can-do attitude and just getting shit done, if I may say so. But I think between the two of us, you and I contacted probably about 60, 65 different music directors. We talked to everybody in Seattle. We talked to people outside of Seattle. I was reaching out to music directors that I had worked with in Oregon to see if possibly they were able to do it. And lo and behold, we finally found Michael, who was able to step in and help save that show for us. This is a problem in this town, that there are so few musical theater houses that, music directors in this town, like, they got to find other gigs. Right.
And the ones who work a lot, you got to book them sometimes a year in advance to even get anyone. So, 2 weeks away from our April, when we opened? No, May opening.
Yeah.
It was like I'm looking at my poster.
May 4th. Yep.
We opened on May 4th. So this was like mid-April when this happened. Like, spring is busy season. So to even find, frankly, a musician, a piano player who was available tonight or tomorrow night or any night on that short of notice. But like, yes, we cast our net. I mean, honestly though, it was, to me, like Reboot, we've had a couple of those, like, even in Fly By Night with the lights going out, where like you have a moment of freak out and you're like, all right, what do we got to do? That's what do we got to do? We just got to do it. We're just going to do it again. When we did Private Lives and the Doors, as I'm sure.
Oh, the Doors.
We had doors that didn't exactly stand, okay? Mm-hmm. And actors had to, it's a farce. So actors are going in and out of these doors, and they were like, getcha. And I'm like, I'm not a carpenter. Like, I don't know. So who, so much of Reboot is, who do you know? Who do you know? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Someone who knows, And so this was just another one of those, like, who do you know who knows a guy, who knows a gal, who knows a person, who knows a thing, who knows and knows and knows. And we finally,
And everybody was so incredibly, like, all of the music directors that we spoke with were like, oh my gosh, I wish I could help you.
Oh,
I really
absolutely.
wish. People were
Absolutely.
checking their schedules and trying to figure out if they could make it work with their
Asking
15 other
friends.
gigs and sending referrals. And we were really lucky. We ended up meeting Beth Rainey, who came in and subbed for us for a little bit. Greg also came in and played for us for a little bit. And then Michael came in and he took over the gig and he ended up music directing and playing the show. And we were so incredibly grateful to him for doing that. Thank you so much for doing that. But yeah, that was.
We had to replace a drummer. I mean,
we did have to replace the drummer. Yep, halfway through. Like there were a lot of things going on. It was the cursed show almost. It was just there was a lot going on. But
it was one of those. I mean, truly, like it was sailing along so beautifully, and then like once we lost our music director, like.
Bam!
Other shit just started dominoing, but
it was just everything.
Honestly, again, it was just a testament to the foundations that we built.
Absolutely.
That even though like if a rotted wall fell, like
we were able to do it. We were able to make sure that we were at least standing in the window holes so that we would still be standing as that wall collapsed on top of us.
Jesus Christ.
We're going to move along and talk with Scott and Lani a little bit. So you both have been a part of our Reboot telethons before you joined the board. And then Scott, you got to help host the telethon the next year. I'm wondering, Lani, if you can talk a little bit about guest artisting and performing during the telethon that first year. What piece did you do and how was that experience overall?
Well, I actually did a couple because Jasmine and I did our favorite number from Hamilton to do together, which is Farmer Refuted, where Jasmine gets to play a prissy pants imperialist, and I get to shout them down. We should do it again.
Yes.
So we did that, and then I had been thinking because Jasmine had said, if you want to sing something, like please, God, help us full time. And
also Lani has a wonderful voice and it should be heard.
Thank you. So I was trying to think of like what's a really good like number to reboot. Like of all of my love of musical theater canon and all of the shows that I would love to be in, but I am not the right shade of something to be in. Like what is those shows? And I came on Miss Saigon. Because I love the music for that show is absolutely gorgeous. And it is such a horrible story of like, I mean, it's Madame Butterfly, but worse because it's the Vietnam War. And so like, I was like, I love this music. I hate this story. How do I reboot this? And then I went, oh, I got it. And I asked my dear, wonderful friend, Jonathan Fowles, who I love and adore, if he'd be willing to sing a song with me. And so we sang and he was totally game for it. And like, we sang I Still Believe, which in the show is a duet, kind of like a, two separate parts of the world duet between Kim, the young Vietnamese girl who had fallen in love with an American soldier who then left Vietnam, and Ellen, his current wife. And singing about how they still believe in their relationship with this one man. Also, men are terrible. Sorry, no offense to, but like in this instance, Chris is kind of garbage. So, I thought it would be a kick to give Jonathan Kim's role. Right, because it's the demure, like Asian woman who, is still in love with the white. And I was like, let's get a white man to sing this. This will be awesome. And then I took Ellen's role also because it just better suits my voice. But it was fun because I had the freedom to kind of do whatever I wanted, and it didn't. And like the next year when I came back, I sang A Change in Me from Beauty and the Beast because that's Bella's one of my favorite Disney princesses. B, a role that's a bucket list role for me and one I have yet to achieve. And that song especially I love because the story behind it is that it was not originally in the Broadway show. Alan Menken wrote it because he basically got blackmailed so Disney was trying to get Toni Braxton to sign on to play Belle on Broadway. Like R&B goddess Toni Braxton.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
And they were like, you know what, go have dinner with Alan and talk about the show and talk about the music. And they went and they had this amazing dinner and they went through like 3 bottles of wine. And, you know, the next day, Alan Menken gets a note from Tony Braxton and it's really excited to sign the contract. Can't wait to hear the new song. And Alan Menken went, I'm sorry, what? New song? He had basically promised to write it. So he's like, oh, well, now I got to do it because she's not going to sign the contract for the show otherwise. So he wrote, and then, so he's like, where can I put a new song? Oh, in the second act, Belle goes back to talk with her father. Right? She leaves the Beast Castle. She goes back to, after having all of these experiences, she goes back to talk with her father. And there was not a musical number for like this huge stretch of time. And he was like, well, that's the perfect place to slot it. And he wrote this beautiful song about, you know, where Belle describes everything she's gone through and the way that it has changed her for the better. And I resonated with those lyrics. I'm sure a lot of other people resonate with those lyrics. And so I just thought that would be like a really special song to do. And I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And then I got to hang out with my friends for, you know, and do wacky nonsense.
And then
like,
I think you and I ended up doing, because we announced Little Shop at that telethon.
Yes.
So
yes, at that
we
first
ended up
telethon.
doing a lip sync performance
Shay
to.
started playing Suddenly Seymour.
Yes.
It was like, so I had auditioned for Harry for Fly By Night. And I made him laugh, which I thought was really fun. And I still hold that feather in my cap. I made her laugh in an audition. But this was really the first time that like we had spent any like face-to-face time. We're like, still, this is like the founding moment of our friendship. I feel like, was we launched into this impromptu, like Harry as Audrey and me as Seymour, like just over the top lip sync to Suddenly Seymour at the end of the telethon.
The cameras were still rolling as we faded into the
it was like
distance.
11:30 at midnight, and we were just like, whatever. And also, Little Shop is one of my favorite shows, and I knew already I wasn't going to be able to do it because of the timing, because that show opened like a week and a half before my capstone project for grad school was due, and so I knew there was no way I was going to be able to do the show and finish grad school, and I was heartbroken. So I was like, this is my moment. I've always wanted to do this show, and I'm claiming this moment for me since I cannot. Like,
you've got to take them when they come.
Exactly.
I think you also sang, I think that was for the 1776 fundraiser. You sang Shik's a Goddess, didn't you?
Yeah, I did that for the like OG. Yeah. So I've had the chance to sing a few times to get Reboot money. So.
Yay! Well, we appreciate it. Our bank account appreciates it. Scott, speaking of getting money, you and for those people who've only seen our incredibly smooth productions of telethons, can you talk a little bit about like what it was to put together as, particularly as you came into the board and you're hosting now that year, what that typical day was like? And Jasmine, if you want to jump in with any thoughts there.
Well, Harry, you said it. It was smooth. There's nothing else to say.
Perfect. It was done. Moving on to the next thing.
I'll tell you, the telethons, they are as much fun as it is. They are a beast.
Oh,
You think about like right before opening night and what it's like, and it's crazy, whatever. No, this is nuts. It is leading up to it, the emails and the lists and the calls and making sure do we have microphones that are going to work? What is our setup? We move into the theater and it's just like, okay, go. And you're live and it's up and going. It's utter
For 12 hours.
For 12 hours. And you're like, okay, what's next on the call sheet? And, you know, luckily we had 2 sections that we would jump back and forth so we could set up or prepare, but it was intense. Intense, and it was so much fun, and just the people coming to be a part of it and lending their talents to help Reboot raise money was amazing. And what I remember from my first time hosting was I was doing construction here at home, and right before going in that morning, I got sawdust in my eyes.
That's
right. You had the eye patch.
The whole time I was there, I was like, an eye, and I was like, we're live, and I can't. And it was like dripping and red. And so we made fake eye patches, and I drew an eyeball, and I wore my glasses the whole time so I would hide the fact that I had this big cat.
I remember that.
Remember? And I'm interviewing. I was interviewing.
Yeah, you interviewed me.
I did.
And you were like, so, and I was like, wow, this, because I think that might be the first time that's the first time I remember meeting you. And I was just so impressed. I was like, wow, dude's down an eye. And he's like, the wizard superpower, which I also regret that I did not answer properly. I don't even remember what my answer was, but like 30 seconds after I was done, I was like, it's baking bread.
Baking bread.
Baking bread is my superpower. Jasmine knows this very well.
It's
And
true.
now the world knows.
Now
the
we
world
all
knows.
know.
So I have corrected my answer.
I have to say that I love and miss the telethon. I really
Yeah.
do. I like everybody says it is a beast, and folks who
Oh my
are
gosh.
watching, it is crazy from beginning to end, but it is so invigorating, and you feel like you've run a marathon when you finally
yeah.
are hit that final hour and you close it and you wrap it up. I love the telethon, and I would love to do it again at some point. I'm just putting it out there for the artistic committee or whatever, but I love it. So we are going to go to a quick clip and see another friend of ours. If you want to roll that, Kevin.
Hi there, my name is Vince Millay, my pronouns are he, him, and you might remember me from some reboot classics such as Orin Scrivello in Little Shop of Horrors and Pirelli in Sweeney Todd. And had COVID not been a thing, you might have also seen me most recently as Cliff in Cabaret, but it's still gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So clearly I've been doing Reboot for a few years now. It's been really, really great to be able to grow with them. Just being able to audition and then be in the rehearsal room. As a trans man who was starting my transition while I started shows with Reboot, was really nice to be able to work with people who got it, who got what it felt like to be frustrated, to not be able to be in part of the bigger houses, or just being kind of looked over in terms of roles that I was able to do. So it was really nice to be able to kind of settle into these kind of, comedic men's roles. It was really fun. And also in terms of a singing capacity, it was great to work with people who just kind of got it. So it was great. It was nice. Amy Hong was fantastic to work with, and really let me be me, and really find what it is I wanted to do with the roles. It was really, really, really great. Going forward, something that I would love personally is I would love Les Mis to happen. Because who doesn't love a good Les Mis? I did it in high school. I was I played a feminine character in that show in high school, so it'd be really fun to be able to use this nice, deep, rich baritone I now have in terms of Javert would be really fun. And my goal is I would love to have Jasmine Joshua be Jean Valjean to my Javert. Would be great. So I want to make that happen. I also would love to be able to direct in the future. It'd be really fun.
All right, that's our friend Vincent Millay, who played Orin Scrivello, DDS in Little Shop, and Pirelli in Sweeney Todd. Kevin, you were involved in Sweeney as your first production with Reboot, and obviously we didn't scare you away. You're still here. You decided to join the board, so that's good. Do you have any fun memories of that show, or anything that sticks out in particular?
I never said I wasn't scared, but no, it's been wonderful. For Sweeney, there were so many fun moments. My favorite will always just be the bloody dance of death that we had going around. It was so much fun. Also, I think fondly of you, Harry, helping me and Vince with our harmonies in a lot of different parts of the show. We'd plunk out our parts before everyone else got to rehearsal. Because I'm terrible with music.
Well, and Sondheim is a piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a really easy show.
So. I'd say definitely the murder dance.
Oh, and we just got Megan said Kevin's murder smile, which is absolutely right.
He laughed
hilarious.
So hard
coming
when
out
Kevin
and doing
came
that
on stage for that
conveyor belt with murder. It was great.
I love that.
One of my favorite memories, and this might be a little bit too much information, TMI, but there was so much blood in the show, and like you would do the slice and it would just go everywhere, and you would find it in every part of your being. And after the show, after we're all dead, we're lying on the floor. Basically, there was just the ceremonial bloodbath that we would have backstage. And it was Karen, you, me, I think Scott, you were there to help us change and like get out of stuff. And we were scrubbing off. And like we're using straight up bleach on our bodies or whatever that detergent was to just get this stuff off after the show. We had to keep the lobby.
Diluted.
Yeah, we had to keep the lobby closed for like an additional 10 minutes so all of us could scrub the blood off. It was insane. It was a bonding moment. It was a bonding moment for sure.
I got to know all of you very intimately.
Very intimately, yes. It was, and we signed a code of conduct, so we're all good.
I was just going to say, the shoes that I wore for that, I have these like Allbirds shoes that I still love wearing, but they are covered in blood. And every time I go out in public, I'm always so self-conscious because
you're the number one suspect in every single homicide.
Obviously, like bloody. Yeah, it's
oh my God.
funny.
Amazing. So our working board was there to help keep things clean and moving, and a lot of that was the blood detail. And Jasmine, Scott, Angela, I'm wondering if you can talk about the being on the blood crew for that particular show and what was going on behind the scenes, how it all came together, just the machinations that you all had to go through.
Spreadsheets.
I'm just gonna say like Jeanette.
Jeanette. It was like,
Jeanette
this is what we're doing.
I mean,
Jeanette and her spreadsheet. Mm-hmm.
but that's why Jeanette was like, I mean, so frigging key. Because that's how Jeanette lived. It's like this is how we're doing it.
Yeah.
And we're just like, okay, that's
and we needed it because that
Oh my
space
God.
is so small. People are coming in and out, and it's like we had to have a blood letting station, a blood washing station, a blood shedding station,
the refilling of the bowl.
Refilling.
And not to mention laundry detail. Like you, all of you were on this crazy laundry journey to go ahead and set this up. And the whites were going off one direction, and the colored clothes were going off a different. And that sounds horrible, but you know, like everything was just being. Everything was just so incredibly well coordinated back there that I know. Speaking as an actor, and Kevin, maybe you feel the same way, but as an actor, like we knew that we were going to be taken care of, and you guys were going to fix everything the moment we walked backstage. It was one of your faces would be there at the table and you're like, here we go, this is what we're doing, and we know what we're doing, and everybody had prepped themselves so much so that way if Angela was there or Scott was there or whomever might be there, you just knew that they were going to do the right thing for you in the right time.
Yeah, and we were there, we were the backstage crew basically. It's like you need dressers and you need cleaners and something and people to watch out for your safety, and we just do it. And,
Scott, were you there? Was it the dress rehearsal where we used blood for the first time? What was it? Was it either the dress rehearsal or maybe it was two dress rehearsals before opening?
It was the dress rehearsal for the final dress for blood for the first time.
It was, and I just remember because I was there, Jeanette was there, and I think Scott was there too. Mm-hmm. And Jasmine, I think, was watching from the audience, but the three of us were backstage, and it was like everybody would come back after. I mean, we hadn't figured it out. We didn't know. We didn't know.
No. We had no idea what to do.
Yet.
No.
Because the blood hadn't been real yet. It had been mined. So
or it was water.
It was water, yeah. So I just remember specifically after the bloodbath scene, but every time somebody would come back, I mean, you guys were like, they were sliding all over the floor, and there were bloody footprints all over the floor, everywhere. And it was a mess. It was just a mess. And I mean, it was dangerous because, of course, then the floors were wet and slippery. And it was just, so I remember Jeanette and Scott and I looked at each other and we went, okay, we're going to fix it. Like, what do we got to do? And we literally had a huddle and we figured it out. And the
next day we were set.
The next day we were set and we were like, we need garbage bags, down here, and we need a liner here, and we need 3 buckets. And we need a vat here, and we need here's the blood station, and Jeanette set all of that up, and we would just rotate through one night. One of us would be on blood refilling duty, and one of us would be on actor duty to make sure that as soon as somebody came off stage, we were able to strip them down and like they could go into the dressing room right away. And like it worked like clockwork. It was brilliant.
Well, and not to mention the hours that you would spend after the show cleaning the stage, because the set was all painted white. The set was painted white, and so there's this blood concoction that's all over this white stage, and they're scrubbing it. And at some point, I think the paint started coming up because you were scrubbing it so hard.
Yeah. It was pink. It was literally pink by the end.
Yeah, it was intense.
The one thing I don't know about anybody else that was in the show, but the one thing I heard from a lot of people was that they wanted more blood. Like, the audience was like, where's the blood? And I'm like, are you kidding me? What happened up there?
You monsters.
I know. Just dark, depraved souls.
Like, literally, as I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor, and I'm like, more blood.
I'm like, oh.
Great, volunteer. That's a great way for you to get involved. Please. Volunteer for Reboot and clean the stage. We'll give you more blood. Help us clean it up.
Exactly.
We're going to jump to a clip from our friend Jake Atwood. Let's go ahead and pop over there, Kevin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jake Atwood. My pronouns are he, him, and I was in Reboot's production of Little Shop of Horrors as one of the urchins. Today, I'm going to tell you 3 quick things that you should know about Reboot Theater Company. Number 1, you are welcome. No matter who you are, where you've been, or where you're going, from the moment you attend an audition, all the way through production and afterward, you will always have a seat at the Reboot family table. Number 2, you are validated. Not only are you welcome, but your presence, your feelings, and your experiences contribute to the very essence of what makes Reboot so great. You contribute to their mission, you contribute to their theater, and you contribute to their productions. Number 3, you are loved. You're welcome, you're validated, and most importantly, you are loved. The relationships that you form will go forward even past the productions, and you'll always hold a special place in Reboot's heart. So overall, 2021 is going to be a big year for Reboot Theater Company, and all are invited to participate, and I promise you, if you do, you won't regret it.
Oh, Jake!
It's amazing.
So good, so good. So good to hear him. Jake talked about the future and people working with us here at Reboot, what it looks like, where we're going from here. And so we're going to continue to be moving into the future, continuing to talk about issues that are really important to our communities and the communities at large. Jasmine, I'm wondering if you can talk more about the importance of this show, Reboot Represents, and the work that we're doing here on this show. Do you mind taking that?
I do not mind.
Awesome.
Yeah. So basically, obviously this show was born out of necessity because we were prohibited almost a year ago from gathering in rooms. And, we're fortunate in that this is an era where we can make a virtual room wherever we go. And so, especially, after Cabaret was postponed, we kind of wanted to talk about it. I mean, frankly, I wanted to talk to everyone and see whoa, what are we doing? What are you doing? What am I doing? What's going on here? And how are we going to move forward with this? And how long is this going to last? And what do we do? And how, so we had all these questions and all these feelings, and really Reboot Represents was a way for us to reach out to our community, both our Reboot community, but also our greater theater community, and dig a little deeper and figure out what are we doing here, folks? And, I'm fortunate in that, a lot of the other theater companies felt the same way. And so there's some bigger conversations that are happening in the Seattle theater community at large. The Seattle theater leader group, where we've been I'm about equity in theater and how we want to change all the old systems. And that is so in line with Reboot's heart. So I'm really honored to be a part of those conversations, but basically this was Reboot's version of that. And, we start as we've always started with, the people who my cat just wants in, equity for cats. 'Cause obviously this cat,
so much to say.
I know this cat. Look at him. Oh, I love him. In any case, so Reboot Represents. So basically, the idea was well, let's talk to people in our community and actually hear from them, because we give them representation on stage, but let's actually like hear what people have to say, like as human beings and not necessarily just as artists.
Right.
So I'm super excited.
We've got some great we've got some great programming coming up. Lani, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that's going to look like for next month. What's next month's show going to be?
Next month's show is in order to celebrate Black voices, since next month is Black History Month, but also acknowledging that like we talk a lot about the past, but Black futures are also just as important, if not more so. So we're going to focus on talking with folks who can really speak to that, especially in Seattle and Seattle theater, and then carry that forward into March as we continue the conversation, specifically focusing on Black women, since March is Women's History Month. And as we have seen lately, Black women have done a lot for us that like people are just now starting to realize. And so giving people their flowers is in, a way that we can.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that programming and for next month, the month after, and then the future months. Check that out on our page, reboottheater.org. Kevin can throw that up there if you need to see it. No, he's so on top of it. It's great. Check that out, and you can see all of our programming. And special thanks, of course, to Kevin, Lani, and Emily, who are part of the Reboot Represents committee to help build that. Kevin, just really quickly, what is it like working with the temperamental star of Reboot Represents?
Every day is a challenge.
Just a challenge, yeah.
I rise to meet that challenge as best as I can, but there is no challenge like Harry Turpin.
Oh my gosh!
No, it's wonderful getting to work with you. You are the perfect professional.
Oh, thanks.
Going with the flow. Very capable of dealing with all the last minute changes that we have. It's very
been some.
Yes, quite a few. And I couldn't ask for a better partner and a better host than for all this. And I know we're like running up on time, but I just want to share, like, for me, I feel like a lot of my processing, of this quarantine and our political atmosphere have kind of, and just like theater in general, the state and its future has kind of, all my processing of all of these historic changes and these monumental challenges that we face have kind of been channeled into Reboot Represents and the conversations that we've had. I think back to our very first episode where I think, Jasmine, you were talking about how everything's going to be okay and how theater's going to move on, and I was just crying as I was clicking the different buttons on StreamYard to get this to go. But I feel like it's very like symbolic of like the quarantine and the evolution that we've all been on and adapting, and I don't know, just dealing with these unprecedented times.
Yes, these unprecedented times. I think we're all tired of unprecedented times, but it's so right. Having this has been a great outlet for us to be able to chat and for our guests too, just having them come on and share their art and what they're doing to keep themselves sane and whole during this entire process. And just to echo back, Kevin, you are lovely as a producer. I couldn't do this without Kevin, everybody. So he deserves all the accolades. I show up, I talk, I ask questions. He's the one running all the scenes and making sure the guests are here and doing all the things behind the scenes. So thank you, Kevin, for doing all of that. But part of that is just kind of moving on really quickly. Angela, you're on the fundraising committee, and if people wanted to continue to see great programming like Reboot Represents, how would they be able to donate some money to be able to help keeping that programming coming?
Well, we take all kinds of donations. We take cash. You can mail me some quarters. No, I'm kidding.
Please make out the check to cash.
No, I'm kidding. No, we have a PayPal link on our website, so it is very easily accessible there. We do fundraisers throughout the year, various things. We obviously weren't able to do our annual Halloween party last year because of COVID, but that is generally our main source of fundraising. But we definitely take cash donations from our PayPal link, and if there are other kinds of donations that you would like to make, or any kind of in-kind donation, time, whatever it is, let us know, and we are happy to work with you, to work with us.
Absolutely. You can shoot us an email at info@reboottheater.com. You can also see that link that's flashing down there
.org.
that says donate. .org. Thanks, Lani. .org. Do not go to reboottheater.com. Reboottheater.org/donate. I think we do own that too. But so maybe you can go there. Who knows? Nobody cares. But
If you email her, it's not going to go through.
You can go to the link that's down below, but you can email us at info@reboottheater.org. Info@reboottheater.org. All right, we are running a little bit long, but you know what? If you're here, you're here. Let's just finish this thing out. We're going to do a little game here, and I just want you to quickly say the first name that comes to mind as I read off these most likely tos. All right?
Oh, no.
Here we go.
On this board or in general?
On this board. All right. And don't forget we have our lovely friend Emily as well.
Emily.
So, all right. Most likely to forget an important event.
Kevin.
I was going to say me.
I was thinking Jasmine and Kevin.
Yeah.
Most likely to forget what they told someone.
Me.
Jasmine.
Oh, Jasmine. Yeah.
Most likely to get the whole gang in trouble.
Yes.
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Angela.
I mean, we wouldn't be here without
Angela.
them. So.
Angela might be too. Sweeney Todd Tech Week, Angela? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, there's a story.
This is a totally specific question. Most likely to become a chess master. We all know
Harry
who that is.
Turpin.
No, that's you. Most likely to become a farmer.
Scott.
Yeah.
Most likely to become a motivational speaker.
Harry.
Oh,
Oh, there we go.
Thanks. Most likely to stay home on a Friday night.
Emily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that. Most likely to stay up thinking all night. I'm gonna go with Lani.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lani.
Yeah.
Most likely to get caught skinny dipping.
Oh, me.
Scott.
We know where he'll be later tonight. Most likely to who has the best poker face?
Not me. Probably me.
Definitely not Jasmine.
I think Kevin. I think Kevin.
I think it's Kevin.
I have played a good amount of poker.
Most likely to cry at the movies.
Oh, I don't know.
Angela, that's you.
Angela?
That's absolutely
I was
you.
going to say me, but nobody else said anything. So.
No, it's
I don't know.
absolutely you. Most likely to succeed as an on-air personality.
Harry.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and you already have.
And I already have. Thanks so much. You can follow my page. Oh, no, don't. Most likely to be able to keep a secret at any cost.
Scott.
Yeah, Scott. I think
Yeah.
Scott would be able to do that.
Yeah.
You can tell me anything.
Because people would tell us, and I'd be like, Jasmine, did you hear?
Harry's like, oh yeah, I'll keep your secret. Angela, oh my god.
Oh my God, group text. Most likely to get detained for public urination.
Lonnie.
I was going to say Kevin, because Kevin has been known to drink infinitely.
We as a board have not gotten to go out. I think the last time I urinated outdoors in the city was in the summer sometime.
Recently? Oh my god.
It was during the protests.
Sometimes you have to go. When you gotta
my
go, you
kids
gotta
do
go.
outside a lot.
Like, who's most likely to earn the most beads at Mardi Gras?
Emily.
Who's most likely to get into an argument with the little kid? Angela.
And why is it Angela?
You're not wrong, but why do you say that?
I think that if that little kid was coming for you, you'd be like, no, this is what we're going to do. And this is what's going to happen.
I can totally see Angela being like, no.
I mean, it already
I don't
happened
care that you're
once.
six.
Sweeney Todd Tech Week. Just kidding. Most likely to be the best at math.
Lani.
Is this because I'm Asian?
And that's the end of Reboot Theater. Thank you so much for.
No, it's because you work on planes.
I actually was a math nerd in high school.
Where Lonnie was
I
like,
took-
18 and 32. 5 and 23 and 37, and all these numbers mean everything.
I also took 5 years of math in high school. So.
5?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Angela, you're right, Angela. There was that. I think there were several times where Angela.
Right before this event, where Lani was just like, number. And
That
we all had the
was more about Illuminati than anything else.
Oh, okay. It's numbers equals math to me. So
Who is most likely to invent something useful?
Lani.
Yeah, probably Lani. Who
You've
is
got,
most?
you've got like such. You've got random knowledge. I feel like
This is
so
very
many
random knowledge.
You do of like
It's true.
so many different subjects.
Who is most likely not to take a shower for a week? So we know the answer to
obviously,
this. It's Angela because she admitted it last night during our Family Feud appearance.
no, I didn't debate either. So
Same.
Girl, it's a pan dulce. Do you?
Yeah.
right?
We're just marinating. It's fine.
Oh,
The
sure.
only person who has to smell me is Harry, and he's all the way across the apartment.
I would just like you to know that both our doors are closed because of that reason. I tease.
Do you really want to go there?
Nope. Most likely to spend all their money on something stupid. Lani says Lani.
That's a stumped one.
I don't.
Lani?
It would just
The
be-
amount of stupid things that I have, or like ridiculous, like things I'm never actually going to use. I have a $200 lightsaber sitting over my computer.
Yes.
all these Disney
You
and
win. You
That's
absolutely
not
win.
useless.
I built it at Disneyland. It was amazing.
I
right.
wanna go.
I have a second game for you all, and this is called On the Spot. So the goal of this is let's see if you can do an impression of another Reboot member.
God.
All right. So does anybody have an impression of another Reboot board member that you would like to do?
No.
No.
I'll go. Angela, you want to go first? Angela? All right, go ahead.
All right. Who is this?
That's Scott.
That's
That is
Scott.
totally Scott.
I was gonna say Harry.
I
on
mean, I
audition.
really am. That's exactly what I do.
That is totally you. All right, I've got one. See if you can guess this. Oh my God! What? Oh my God! What? Are you okay? Whoa! Any guesses?
Could that be our illustrious artistic director?
All in good fun. All in good fun.
Jasmine rules the bit. Like, there are moments where I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to talk to Jasmine about this thing because their reactions are going to be the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Anybody else got an impression of a Reboot board member? It's okay if you don't. It's all right.
Harry, we just practiced in our apartment.
Harry and Emily fucking roast us.
We actually will go through a scenario of the board meeting. We'll be like, so Jasmine's going to say this, and then Scott will do this, and Kevin will do this, and then
Do you have like a bingo sheet?
we
for,
do.
like,
We do. We're like,
coordinating
yes,
bingo.
Oh, we should have a
Perfect.
bingo sheet.
A Reboot
We
bingo.
spend 20 minutes talking about nothing whatsoever.
All right, we're going to wrap up here. We have been here, and thank you for all of you who have stuck with us to watch this Reboot Represents reflective hour where we've talked about the past and a little bit of the future. As we're heading into the future of Reboot, what that's going to look like, if you had to fill out Reboot's birthday card for its fifth-ish anniversary and give it some well wishes, what would you wish for Reboot? What would you hope? And we'll start with you, Kevin.
I would say happy birthday, Reboot. I can't wait to see what you do next.
That's great. What about you, Lani?
Happy birthday, Reboot. I can't believe it's been 5-ish years already. Time flies. You grow so quickly. And here's to bigger budgets and bigger spaces.
Yes.
That's awesome. Scott, what about you?
Reboot, you're swell. I love you. I miss you.
Angela?
Oh, happy birthday, Reboot. You made it this far. Congratulations on the first 5 years. Here's to 50 more.
Awesome. Jasmine?
Yeah, I would say echo like bigger budgets and bigger spaces, and to say that nobody in all of Oz or a wizard that there is or was is ever gonna.
We didn't pay for the rights to that, so we're going to be taking it down from YouTube. So
The rights to
That's
what?
just a vocal riff. You can't prove
just
that
a
with
vocal riff.
anything.
That's up. I would echo a little bit of what you, Jasmine, said, and I would say happy birthday, Reboot. You continue not knowing the word no. I think that would probably be what I would pass on to Reboot. It's been that's the beauty of this board and the way that we get things done is we just don't know the word no, and that's great, and we can continue to move forward. And that is actually going to bring our couple of hours here to a close. Thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of this. Special thanks to the entire Reboot board: Jasmine Joshua, Angela Snyder, Scot Charles Anderson, Emily Kight, who couldn't be here this evening, Kevin Tanner, and of course Lani Smith. Be sure to join us next time for our next Reboot Represents next month on February 8th for Black History and Future Month, where we talk about the current state of a future of theater among our Black colleagues and how we can both be better allies and colleagues to them. If you'd like to see continued programming such as this, please donate at reboottheater.org. You can make a one-time donation or set up a monthly donation. And we are forever grateful for you and your time and spending that this evening and any contributions that you make. And finally, as always, special thanks to Kevin Tanner for being the producer that he is, producer extraordinary, and making the show run. For Reboot Represents, I am your host, Harry Turpin, reminding you to trust yourself to be yourself. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.